What is one of the best ways to make sure you make it through the hiring process? And that's getting a law enforcement mentor. Let's discuss. Before we get started, listen, those gifts are still in the description for you. If you want the Getting Started workshop, it's going to walk you through every phase of the police hiring process. Plus, it's also got some hidden bonuses in there, like the police candidate eligibility exam, where you can find out how you'll rank as a police officer or as a police candidate. Additionally, if you want to sign up for one of the free coaching calls with me or any of the other instructors, we have a bunch more instructors now and way more time so that you can actually get a hold of us and not have to wait that long. Our gift to you. Now, making it through the police hiring process, what is something that you can do to really help you along the way? Finding a mentor is one. And you can, I say this all the time. There's so many people in my life that have been mentors throughout my career, throughout my hobbies, throughout my passions, whatever, throughout life, that are my mentors that don't even know that they're my mentors, right? They've made an impact on me, and I should probably call them and tell them, hey, I just want to thank you because you've made an impact on my professional, my life, or whatever aspect of this. The other aspect, though, is you can get a designated mentor, right? You can always find someone to mentor you. If you know someone in law enforcement, it's a good idea. One thing I will caveat this: when it comes specifically to getting a mentor for the hiring process, try to get a mentor that's familiar with the modern day hiring process. And I'm not just talking about, oh, hey, I've been a cop for 25 years. I've helped and assisted with the hiring process. Someone that's either been through it recently or someone that partakes in it routinely. If they're a background investigator or if they're part of the recruitment team, find someone that has that, because a lot of times I see past law enforcement officers or even current law enforcement officers that are nearing retirement age. They try to give guidance, and thankfully some of them are just upfront about it and say, hey, the hiring process from when I went through to now is completely different, right? It's nowhere near as I don't want to say rigorous. I'm not saying that because it was rigorous when they went through, but it has nowhere near the same considerations, right? That's the way we'll go with it. So make sure you try to find that. Make sure you try to find that individual. Here over at Armageddon, that's what we do. The whole purpose of what we do is to mentor law enforcement candidates, not only through the hiring process, but in preparation for the academy and their career as a whole, because our goal is to put good officers out there on the street. A lot of individuals will go through and try to do the process on their own first, and then maybe they'll get DQ'd and then they'll reach out to us. And it makes it so much harder opposed to just getting a mentor to begin with. Understand, I'm completely biased, right? That's what this whole company does is mentorship, coaching, and instruction. But I'm not telling you have to go with us. Use the free content we have. That's what it's here for, right? Is to give you some time. I hope that you consider me a mentor, even if we've possibly never met in person, or any of my other instructors that have helped and assisted, maybe through a free coaching call or any of the content that they put out and assisted with. So hopefully you consider them mentors, and they've helped steer and guide your career in a good path. But if it's not us, find someone. It doesn't have to be us. I mean, I'm going to sit here and tell you, I recognize the bias of saying, hey, I recommend myself and my instructors as mentors. But you can find any mentor that you feel is a good mentor, someone that's going to steer you right and guide you based on ethics and principles and success, right? Because ultimately that's what you're looking for. Now, be mindful, pick your mentors carefully, right? Don't pick someone that's going to steer you wrong and say, hey, don't disclose this. It's not going to be an issue. And then they find out and you get DQ'd from one department for failure to disclose. Every department's going to know that you apply to, and it's going to be a major hurdle to get over moving forward. And the only real way to do it is to take that on the chin and say, I made a mistake. Please forgive me. And most departments aren't in the forgiving mood when it comes to hiring candidates. So keep that in mind. But mentorship is excellent, and understand, if you go out and you just find a mentor, maybe someone maybe someone that's on the force still, and someone that's practicing law enforcement or retired law enforcement, right? Whatever you decide is the right fit for you. Understand other limitations, right? That they probably have their jobs, or they have other obligations, other aspects that they can't designate to you all the time. And I've seen this time and time again. You're going through, candidate passes the board interview, and next thing you know, they give them the background pack and say, "Hey, we need this done in 7 days." But maybe your mentor is unavailable in those 7 days. That's a critical junction right there to not be able to bounce your articulation and how you fill out your background packet off of your mentor. So make sure you choose wisely, right? If your mentor is someone that's constantly pulling overtime and constantly working rotating shift or nights, and they're hard to get a hold of, maybe you can get a hold of them once a month or once every couple of months for a sit down and a coffee. Well, that's a lot of time that's passed that could really that individual could really make a positive impact on your hiring process and your career as a whole, right? But if you can't reach them during those critical elements, if he or she is just unavailable, and it's not their fault, right? They probably have a lot of obligations. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Now, once again, I'm not telling you to find a mentor that is just at your beck and call, right? Because chances are it's going to be impossible. Even our instructors and our coaches, they have other members they're facilitating, but the one rule we do have is if it's during their normal service hours, right? Whether that's Monday through Thursday, Tuesday through Friday, the weekend, whatever they have. If you ask them a question, you're getting an answer that day, right? As long as it's during their normal so-called working hours. So kind of keep that in mind. It's very difficult to pick a mentor, but you really need to find one. You really do need to find one, whether that's us or anyone else. And like I said, it doesn't have to be us. I'm not trying to sit here. I recognize the bias in that, right? But find a mentor that is reliable, that is going to guide you right based on, like I said, those ethical principles, and that it is obtainable and available. If not, picking them as a mentor, while they may have great insight and great knowledge, if you can't access that knowledge regularly, it's not that they're not a good mentor. It's just they might not be the right fit for where you're at, for getting mentorship where you're at in your current situation, specifically the hiring process. Something that I've been running into a lot lately, where members will reach out to me or the other instructors and say, or excuse me, not members, not existing members, but new people will reach out for the free coaching call, and they'll say, "Oh, my dad is a law enforcement officer, or my uncle's a law enforcement officer, or my aunt, or my mother-in-law, or whatever, and or my friend's a law enforcement officer." And they're still reaching out and saying, "Hey, did you run this by them? I want their opinion? They're a close member in your family, they're a confidant, they're potentially a mentor. Did you run this by them, which what we're discussing here?" And a lot of times I get, "Yeah, they either gave me the same advice you're giving me, or I was unable to access them, or they didn't have enough time to fully break it down." And that's just because of where people are in life. Like I said, you can't really hold them you can't hold it against them. We'll go that way, right? You can't hold it against them that they're not available. This is what we do, right? Our whole focus is law enforcement instruction, law enforcement training, and law enforcement coaching, right? That is exactly the focus here. So we're more available for that specific aspect. So don't try to compare that to, hey, Frank's over here always going this, always saying he's available. That's what I do, right? If your friend who's a law enforcement officer who's pulling rotating shift schedule, and you're saying, "Man, I really got to get together. I want to apply. I need to sit down and talk to you." And they're saying, "Hey, I got a family at home. I got a rotating shift schedule. I'm picking up overtime because we're putting a new addition on the house, or we have a baby coming." Be easy on them, right? Be easy on them. While they are, friends and family, they still have their own lives going on, and that's their full-time job isn't mentorship, right? So kind of keep that in mind. Things to look for in a mentor, right? One, availability, like I discussed. Two, accessibility, right? So they're available and you're able to reach them. And then three, knowledge, right? If you're saying, "Hey, my mentor is my buddy who just got hired on with one police department that they applied to, and it's a small department, and they didn't even have a poly or they didn't have a PT test, or while they can be a level of experience and information, I don't know if you necessarily want to select them as your primary mentor for the sheer fact that there's so much more and there's so many variances to the hiring process and law enforcement in general. If they just graduated the academy or they're in the academy, they might not be the best person for a direct mentor. Now, I'm not telling you not to use that. They have current knowledge of at least one hiring process. So yes, there's valuable information you can get from them. I'm just saying be mindful if you're going to select them as your primary mentor and your go-to confidant throughout your hiring process or career. The other aspects you want to look for in a mentor is someone that has someone that has been through various different aspects, whether that's they've applied to multiple departments, they're eventually picked up with this one, or they've sat in on board interviews, or they've done background checks for police candidates. These are all critical elements that would really make someone a prime mentor for the law enforcement hiring process and for the career in general, right? So taking in someone who did law enforcement for, say, 10 years, was on patrol the whole time, and never assisted in the PT exam or any type of the recruitment process, they're still valuable asset, just as the person who just recently got hired that I mentioned before, that analogy. But once again, that expertise, that level of experience for this specific aspect may be limited, right? So may be limited. But if you have someone that is 10 years on the job and they may not have done it, but they're involved in it of other aspects, such as they keep up with the hiring practice, they keep up with the newest trends coming out, what the departments do, that person can fill that role for you 100%. 100%. It just comes down to what is the best situation for you. I will say this, when it comes to the hiring process and having a mentor, I've seen one of the biggest deciding factors on someone getting hired is the mentor that they select. I've seen it where they've selected mentors and they've come to me and say, Frank, this law enforcement officer that I know told me not to put this down, and this department found out about it, and now I'm permanently disqualified from this department, and I have to tell every other department that I'm applying to this. And chances are, if you're applying in the local area that department DQ'd you from, they have rapport and relationships with all those other local departments, and they might not move forward with you. You might have to start looking at a farther scope, or even out of state, if this is the profession. Now, I'm never condoning lying whatsoever, right? If you do, myself or none of my instructors will ever work with you. But the big aspect to it is people make mistakes. You can recover from them, but having a mentor guide you the wrong way can have a serious negative impact on your career. One of the biggest things that I say about my career is the mentors that I've had. Thankfully, they were who they were, and I got lucky that I was assigned to them as field training officers and as supervising officers. I had them in my life because they set the tone for my career. And not only that, I don't think I'd be where I am. I know I wouldn't be where I am now with my career without them. Right? Because they have 100% played a major role in my career and my career advancement. So that's why I'm very, very passionate when it comes to selecting the right mentor and selecting the right person to guide you throughout your hiring process and or your career. So keep that in mind. There's a lot more that goes into this, right? There's a lot more that goes into this, and while it may seem simple, I just need to find someone who's in law enforcement and choose them as a mentor. It's not that cut and dry, right? You need to find someone that meshes with your personality, as well as someone that can give you good guidance, and sometimes even the tough guidance, even though you don't want to hear it, and won't steer you, the wrong way. But there's a lot here. Here's what I'll tell you. If you're looking for a mentor and you don't have one, feel free to reach out to us. Like I said, we have that free coaching call. Any of the instructors, including myself, will sit down with you and we'll mentor you as much as possible and as much as we can throughout the coaching. as well as all of our other benefits out there, our podcast, this video podcast, as well as our online courses and our coaching programs. So we have those two gifts in the description for you, one being the Getting Started workshop, everything you need to know about the hiring process, plus those hidden bonuses to include the candidate eligibility exam. The other aspect is the free coaching call I just mentioned. Use it. It's our gift to you. I hope you stay safe, and I'll see you next time.